Welcome, good morning, and thank you for joining me one more time for Story Time with Joyce. And we read from my first book in my Big City Dreams series, and it's called Betty. And so today we're reading chapter 5. It's a little longer than the last chapter, and reminding you that it is the early 1900s, maybe around 1910. So it's called A New Beginning. That train ride was our new beginning, Betty, Arvin said excitedly. Not sure about all this, Arvin, Betty replied apprehensively. She went on to say, there are people everywhere. I've never seen so many people all in one place. So much noise. Buggies everywhere. Yes, Betty, and look at all those machines, modern automobiles. I'm going to get us one of those someday, Arvin answered with a big smile on his face. There were trolleys, wagons filled with produce, wagons filled with lumber, people walking every which way, automobiles, horns honking, and in the middle of all this chaos was Arvin and Betty. Arvin, nothing is the same. Smells are different, sounds are so loud, and there's so many buildings, all on top of each other. And they are so big, too. I bet the food even tastes different here. Yeah, Betty, ain't it exciting? Arvin said with his head turning every which way. He wanted to take in everything at once. Arvin already loved the sounds of the city. He even liked the smells. He knew he was standing on the brink of his future. Arvin was feeling free of the farming and free to live his city dreams. He said once again, Betty, ain't it exciting? Betty wasn't feeling the same way. She was also looking every which way, but not for the same reason. She was hating the sounds and thought the smells were disgusting. Oh, I couldn't call it exciting. Maybe noisy, smelly, and dirty, but not exciting. Arvin, where are we going to stay? Someone told me about settlement houses in the city. Let's find us one, Arvin said excitedly. How are we going to do that? Betty asked with a slight edge of sarcasm. There's so many buildings. How are we going to know which one is this here settlement house that you're talking about? There's a group of fellows over there. I'll ask one of them. Arvin, don't you be talking to strangers. Betty, it's okay. And he started to walk toward the group of fellows that were standing on the corner. Be careful, Arvin, you don't know them boys. Arvin waved his hand in a dismissive manner and again started to walk away. He was getting annoyed with Betty's apprehension and didn't understand her concerns. Arvin spotted a bench and suggested that Betty sit down and wait for him. So Betty sat down and Arvin left her sitting on a bench near the trolley stop. While she was sitting there with her bags, Arvin went off to find the location of one of the settlement houses. Betty felt awkward sitting by herself and a bit scared. She was relieved when she saw Arvin walking back towards her. Those fellows were good guys, Betty. We got us some good luck already. There's a couple of these settlement houses not too far from here. Let's go. Arvin and Betty grabbed their bags and headed down the street in the direction of the settlement houses. Arvin, how much farther? Betty was feeling exhausted. Not sure, but those buildings ahead sure look big. They must be one of those houses. They continued to walk another block when Betty asked Arvin, do you think this is it? He took Betty by the arm and guided her through the doorway and said, yep, this is the it. This is the number that the fellows gave me. Let's go in. They found themselves standing in a large room full of people just milling around. There were couches, chairs, and a few tables. Arvin, we can't stay here. Everybody is on top of everyone else, Betty said, feeling very overwhelmed. Oh, how she wished she was home in her cabin sitting in front of the fireplace with Arvin. She felt grimy after sitting on the train all day and walking around the smelly, dirty city. She thought about the creek and how on a hot day she would jump in, clothes and all. And she looked around the room, thoughts of back home filled her head. She felt someone nudge her. It was Arvin. "Come on, Betty. Let's find someone that can help us get a room," Arvin said like a child that would say, "Let's go see what Santa left us under the tree." Settlement houses were important reform institutions in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Chicago's Hull House was the best-known settlement in the United States, and it was the first. Jane Addams, who was a pioneer American settlement activist, social worker, and philanthropist, co-founded the Hull House with her partner Ellen Gates Starr. It was also the first settlement house in the United States. These settlement houses were usually large buildings in crowded immigrant neighborhoods of industrial cities. Soon after Hull House, several more settlement houses popped up throughout Chicago. Some of them included gymnasiums, auditoriums, classrooms, and meeting hall, as well as living spaces and communal dining facilities for residents. Arvin and Betty happened upon one of the smaller settlement houses. It was close to the garment district, and Arvin was told that the garment factories were hiring people to run the milling machines. The magic word, machines. "Betty, I talked with the man in charge. He said we could have a private room if you help out in the kitchen. I told them there ain't nothing like your fried chicken." "Arvin, I thought we were both going to work so we could get our own place." "Yeah, but you can still help out in the kitchen, can't you? I really want us to have one of those private rooms." Betty thought, how could he make that decision for me? Her feeling of being put in a position that she had no say in just added to her annoyance with this whole city thing. "Well, I guess I can, but a lady on the train told me about an agency I can sign up with to do what they call domestic work. You know, watching children and cleaning houses for some of the wealthy folk. So even though you told the man here that I would work in the kitchen, I'm still going to find out about this agency." Arvin just waves his hand and dismisses what Betty had said. "Let's get settled in our room and we can talk about this later. Right now I want to get cleaned up and meet up with some of the fellows and menfolk around here." "I guess I'll go to see the kitchen," Betty said, frustrated. Arvin did get cleaned up and walked outside to look around. He met up with some fellows who were just hanging around smoking and talking. They all said where they were from, and it seemed they all shared one thing in common. They all had city dreams. Betty found her way to the kitchen, not knowing who to see or what to expect. She was still feeling somewhat annoyed with Arvin for volunteering her to work in the kitchen. She was greeted by a young girl with long red hair and a friendly smile. Are you new here?" She said. "What's your name?" "I'm Mary," said the young girl with the friendly smile. "My name is Betty Jamison. Did you just get here?" "Yes," Betty said. "Betty, where did you come from?" "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm nervous about being in the city. My husband and I just got off the train today from Kentucky. I was told I have to help out in the kitchen. Do you know who I talked to?" "Why, that would be me. I run the kitchen. My parents immigrated from Ireland and we settled in Ohio. I wanted to come to the city, so I hopped on a train and here I am. I love the city." "I'm not so sure about this city. It's my husband's dream to be here. He wants to work with machines." "Betty, what do you want?" Mary asked. "I want a home of my own, and I had that in Kentucky. We left it for my husband's city dreams. I still want a home of my own." "Well, Betty, I am sure you will have it again. Come on, let me show you around and get you something to eat." "Thanks, Mary. I am a bit hungry." "Do you know anything about an agency that I can sign up with to do domestic work?" "Well, I don't, but there is a lady here that does domestic work. She lives in the communal part of the house. I think her name is Sally or Sarah, something like that. She isn't here now, but I can leave her a note and have her come to your room. Is that okay?" "Yes, thank you, Mary. That would be really nice, and thank you so much for your kindness. I'm having a hard time today. I come from a really small town, and I am not used to all this hustle and bustle." "You have had a long day. After something to eat and a good night's sleep, you will feel much better." You're right, Mary. Thanks. You're welcome, Betty, Mary said, and showed her to an empty seat at one of the tables. Now let me get you something to eat. Mary disappeared through a swinging door and came back with a sandwich and set it down in front of Betty. Would you like something to drink? Mary inquired. No, thank you. The sandwich will be just fine. I'll get some water at the drinking fountain over there, Betty replied as she pointed to the corner of the room. Betty sat quietly eating the sandwich. She was feeling apprehensive and quite alone. She wished she could feel the happiness that Arvin felt, but she didn't. Betty finished her sandwich. As she walked out of the kitchen, she passed Mary and wished her a good night. Betty found Arvin outside, just standing and looking around. He seemed to be in a trance. Betty, isn't it great? Just look at all the people coming and going. So much action. I'm sure gonna like it here in this city. Arvin, can we go to our room now? I'm tired and I want to clean up. Yeah, I suppose. I'm tired too. Their room was down a hall off the communal sitting area. As they passed several people around chatting, Betty was overcome with a wave of nausea. She knew she wasn't physically ill, just overwhelmed with her new surroundings. As Arvin unlocked the door to the room, she started to feel a little better. She could see the room was sparsely furnished. A dark blue overstuffed chair sat in the corner next to a floor lamp that had a small round table attached to its base. A pile of clean linens laid on top of an unmade bed and a dresser with a mirror was against the wall next to the bed. There was a picture of a man and a woman above the bed. The woman was holding a baby. Betty thought there was something sad about the picture. She supposed it was to represent a couple's new beginning. However, she saw sadness in the woman's eyes. They each set their bags down on the tile floor. After Betty got cleaned up, she walked over to the bed, started unfolding the linens, and getting ready to make the bed when Arvin came over and started helping. Surprised, she said, "Thanks, Arvin." As they continued to make the bed, she thought to herself, well, maybe the city is good for Arvin after all. He's never helped with bed making before. As soon as the bed was made, they plopped down on it. They were both asleep by the time their heads hit the pillow. Thanks again for joining me. Remember, you can go to JoyceBennett-Hall.com, order the books. I have the 3 books that are the series, or you can go to Amazon.com, or just enjoy watching the video and joining me every Tuesday. Thanks so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.